So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, dear colleagues, wherever you are. So today we start our first session, which is a keynote speaker by our dear colleague and professor, Dr. Siqueira. So Dr. Sheen is a full professor at the Department of Applied Informatics, Federal University of the State, Rio de Janeiro, and he has been teaching courses in information systems and socio-technological issues. He has been published like over 100 papers, and he has been responsible like on different editorial positions within different like international and Brazilian journals. Without any further delay, we would like to welcome our dear colleague to talk about like his presentation, Searching as Learning Process, What Am I Looking For?
Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be a keynote speaker at ICALT conference, which I have been in some editions. It's a really nice place to be here in Orem, Utah. And I thank all the organizers, especially Rita, for having me here, and everybody who is here to watch my presentation. When I was thinking about this presentation, the topic of this presentation, obviously the focus should be a search and learning process, because I've been working on this topic for a long time now. But I was thinking, which kind of focus should I have here in this presentation? And if I were invited 2 years ago, I was telling that it would be a very technical presentation on all the things that we work on the searching process and organizing this searching process for learning. But now I decided to bring a personal point of view on this area, bringing also some of the most important things that we have done, but also personal perspective of what we should be worried about in this area, what we should be looking at this area. So I hope you like it. Some people asked me where I'm from. So I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I also brought a picture here that shows the sugar loaf, and we have here a beautiful scenario that we have in Rio. We can see here the cable car, and a closer look at the cable car. We see on the left here a building, and this building is where I work. So if you want to visit us, you can have this whole view there, because it's next to the place where you take the cable car to the Sugarloaf. That's where I work. I work with several colleagues and some professors, some students here. You may remember some people, just like Iggy, who organized ICALT 2019, Bernardo, some students who have been in other ICALTs, for instance, Christian, who also was part of the woman panel in some edition, and some other students. So what do you do when you don't know something? I was looking for preparing some classes and looking for some content material for the students. And we have a lot of work to do that. We have to look different materials. We have to look which specific part from which material is more important for a specific subject. So we do the things to choose the specific content. But when you don't have a teacher to guide you, what do? And it's very common, we just search for something. For instance, this year, I've been told a word, which is cordura in Spanish. And wow, what is it about? I don't speak Spanish, so I had to search for it and try to understand a bit more. And in this process, we usually do some digging on the content. We try to understand that. We try to bring to our day life. So usually help us to find the information to solve the problem. But does it help us to learn something? That's the question here in search as a learning process. Does these tools, search engines, help learning? How? Or maybe are they good enough for supporting learning? What could we do in order to help in this process? So we come to search as learning talk. We have here the work from Bakari, which is really introductory in this subject. We have the search formulation here. And we also deal with the source, trying to select the best content, interacting with the source. And after that, maybe we can synthesize what we are reading, what we are looking, and try to understand, make some meaning from that. So it's the process of creating meaning. They present a lot of things, just like the stage of search, modification, restructuring the knowledge, and assimilating the knowledge also. We have also here a work from Rie. She is a professor, and it's also very interesting. It's also introductory to this topic, and it's very interesting because we have fact findings search, which will look for something very specific. For instance, how to get to UVU. So I want something very specific, and this I just search and get immediately the result. That's it. In this scenario, we are more receptive to the information. Most of the works in this area focus on exploratory search. When we are trying to explore the content, try to understand something, so we start looking for lots of contents, not only one specific piece of information. But we have also here another interesting one, which is comprehensive search, which provides us with a more critical and creative process. So it's more related to search, to learning also. And she works with the Bloom's taxonomy that I'm sure you are familiar with the learning behavior and comparing also with the search behavior. I don't have enough time to go into detail on these things, so I'm just trying to give you a general overview of these. Other work I liked very much is that from some colleagues like Ron and Stefan from L3S Hanover, and they have actually, I had a student, a PhD student who was working with this kind of things to organize the framework for search as learning, but he got a good work offer and he dropped the PhD. But two years later, Stefan and Ran and colleagues brought this organization of knowledge. So we have the learner. The learner is working in a specific context, and the learner is doing a query and interacts with a query interface, user interface, and this query is going to achieve this information retrieval system that's going to retrieve some information and get the query suggestions and ranked results to the interface, and the user, the learner in this case, can select, interact with these results, and maybe navigate, interacts with the specific selected internet objects. So it has a great overview from this process. They also detail from what happens on the learner side, what happens on the information retrieval side. It's very interesting. You should have a look. When we are talking about search as learning, we think about searching. And when we think about searching, what can we deal with? There are many things. For instance, what is the user intent into search? What does he want or she wants into search? What he is looking for? Also, the type of content. Usually, most of the works look for text or work with text, but we also could be searching for videos, for IoT objects, for code, and they bring different perspectives for searching. They could also be worried about information retrieval, how to index, how to store, how to rank, how to optimize with algorithms. Actually, our group is focused on understanding user behavior or learning behavior in the case of search as learning. How does the user interact with the tool? How they search for knowledge? What kind of domain does it what kind of domain is he interested in? We also could have a look on user satisfaction. How I know a specific user formed a search section. How do I know it was successful? He really got what he wants. He just leaves. I don't know if he just left because he doesn't care anymore, or he found the information. So it's also a big topic here. So we have a lot of possibilities of works in this area. And I just talked about searching, but we also have another important aspect here, which is learning. We could think more about learning. What do you think when I say learning? What is your focus on learning? Some people would be thinking about the content. What is the learning content? How to prepare the content material, how to find the specific material. But some people think it's not good enough to focus only on the content, but how to get knowledge from this content. So it's another perspective here in learning. We could be thinking about the student role here. We could be thinking about the teacher role, or teaching methods, or mediation, or formative experience, or technological resource, assessment and evaluation, learning situations, social relations. Wow, it's a lot. And it's not an exhaustive list. There are many other possibilities. So when we combine both of these areas or thinkings, we have a lot of work to do to explore in this area, search as learning, because we have to understand the searching perspective, the learning perspective, and how we combine both of them. Well, we started making some systematic mapping because from computer science point of view, they love systematics. So it's a good way to start. It's in Portuguese, sorry, but just to give you an overview how I do with my students, I usually start with trying to understand the area first. So where are the articles, the papers published? When? What kind of place? What are the main authors? And here we can see exploratory search is the main focus of the papers until 2019. But we also have some focusing on information retrieval and also on the behavior, user behavior, looking for the interaction between the user and the system. After that, we also performed a systematic mapping on trying to understand the learning perspective. So how does learning occur in this paper, how they focus on learning side from search as learning process. We can see here They cover different perspectives such as behaviorists, cognitivists, constructivists. When they are dealing with mechanisms that influence the learning process, trying to understand their purpose or motivation, we can deal with reinforcements, with rewards, evaluation or assessment, assistance or guidance, and how the sessions were designed for learning, the search sessions, in controlled sessions, not controlled sessions, individual or in group, centered in communities, knowledge, students, or mixture, everything. And how they measure the learning in this perspective, post-test, assisted process, knowledge base, these kinds of informations. We also try to look what are the dimensions and variables for such as learning process. And we can see here a focus on the user dimension, where we have some demographic information, but also prior user knowledge. We also have here an interaction dimension. We deal with exploratory search activities, with search engine feedback, and also variables related to the activities. Yeah, and we also have the knowledge dimension, which deals with the knowledge domain representation, cognitive levels of the resource, and resource features. So we can see here that search and learning really deals with learning also. So we have to understand what kind of perspective of learning they are working with. And here we have some our first exploration in this subject, where we thought that it would be interesting to organize the search results according to some groups. And we thought some student might be worried about to understanding a specific concept. In this case, we could group the results related to concept in a specific group. Other students already know the concept and they are trying to understand how to do something. So they could be more interested on procedural content. Other students might have a general overview, understanding of the concepts, know how to do, but they want to go deeper, have a deeper understanding on that subject. So we could have a group for a deeper content. And we also might have some student that already knows that subject and wants to explore related ones. So we also could have a group like that. We performed a survey and also interviewed with specialists in order to understand, are these groups good enough, and how can I order the results in these groups? Would you like a search engine bringing the results, organizing these groups, and so on? What we found here that, okay, it's interesting, but if I'm looking for conceptual content in organized these results, specifically in a group, how can I identify the concepts? What are the best source? Some of the questions we got in this scenario. When we want to look at procedural content, how to present the procedures and the process. Perhaps the learners prefer multimodal content, but actually what we found, they tend towards video when they are looking for how to do something. Do you know your students looking for TikTok videos? So that's it. They are trying to understand how to do something, and they think it's much better than looking at search engine, general search engine as Google, for instance. And how we can deal with the complexity in order to organize this group related with deeper content. So we can think some content materials are easier for students or introductory, and other are a bit more complex. So how can we find that? We should have to be able to deal with information complexity. And for related content, we should understand the relationships around the contents. Here, a more experimental work. We have here trying to understand, to identify the concepts, to understand the concepts and their relationships. We worked with knowledge graphs, trying to organize the concepts from content materials. And after extracting the knowledge graph from a specific content material, how can we analyze the path the student could do in this material? So we try to understand not only the contents, but also their relationships, but in a way that it would be possible for the student to follow a specific path. There are a lot of formulas here and experimentations, but it was presented in ICALT 2019. It's available there. In order to deal with complexity, it's another work presented at ICALT 2019. Christian, which was a PhD student, she tried to understand how can I find what is complex in a specific content, what are the variables related to complexity. So she worked with knowledge graphs, specifically the DBpedia, textual corpus from the articles from Wikipedia, and she used feature-based categorization and also graph-based features in order to deal with information variety in uncertainty. So she got what are the knowledge graphs from the content that I have from Wikipedia, and how can I decide if a specific article is introductory or more complex. So that was the process here, dealing with, for instance, a channel index in order to understand the information complexity. So it was a good work presented on ICALT 2019 also. Here, I really like this work. It was from ICALT 2020. We have here the learning resource. We extract from the learning resource the text, the metadata, try to annotate the concepts, automatically annotate the concepts to understand from a specific learning resource what are the concepts that it brings to the table. So we extract these concepts, try to organize the relationships between the concepts in order to see how we can explore or how we do explore them in learning resource. And what is really good about it is when we try to pick something, we are in a specific course. So we are trying to focus, what do I need to teach in a specific course? And we start to segment the knowledge. So we have different disciplines, different courses, and it's very difficult for the student to understand, to make the links between the concepts, between the courses. So she showed how it's difficult for the student, how we should have a more systemic approach for this area, how we should try to understand better the complexity in order to organize our course. Unfortunately, she defended her thesis, and I did not have another student to go further in this work after that. But it's very interesting because how we usually do not make the links easier to the students. Another focus we had here in search as learning process, we try to understand how the student interacts with the search engine. So we try to understand what the path do they do. They start with a specific keyword, and then after that, what he do? Sometimes he goes back to the first one, sometimes add another keywords or remove keywords. What is happening there? And Marcelo Tibau is also a PhD student. He's finished his PhD this year, and he worked with two different data sets, public one from Yahoo, trying to understand which sessions would be more related to exploratory search. And he found a specific behavior in these searches. And in another data set, which is from people from M3S Research Lab in Hanover, they have a learning environment, which students and teachers share content material. So the search there is very focused on learning resource. And the behavior is totally different. So how learning happens in search in a specific scenario of searching learning material in a broad scenario of searching the web. So it's very different, we can see here. He also worked trying to understand how we can make some sense from these search sessions in order to see the behavioral domain, the procedural domain, and metacognitive domain using Martin-Bonini words. And we could also use another taxonomy. This is a recent work from last year, which we did not explore, but it's very interesting because it's focused on self-regulated learning, a taxonomy for self-regulated learning. So we could use this kind of taxonomy in order to understand how search is going to happen in this scenario of learning. And a recent work published this year in Library and Information Science and Research, we explored the indicators from strategies of online information searching, try to understand, for instance, using the most familiar or unknown search engine in the first place, how the user choose the search, how the user choose the keywords, how everything happens here in the search as a learning process. We have found how knowledge is gained during the search, web search. There are some works trying to capture some indicator about knowledge gain in search as learning process, but here we found a specific metric for that, and it's very interesting because it explores many variables or indicators. Another interesting thing in this article is usually people use think aloud protocol in order to understand what is happening during a search. As I don't have much information only in the logs, I usually start recording what the user is telling us he's doing at each time while he's searching. So this think aloud protocol, usually people take the number of participants by chance, but he brings a methodology in order to understand how many participants do I really need in order to get the saturation of the sample here. So we also have a contribution on the methodological side here. Well, we could be talking about how to perform better search in order to learn, but it's not our focus. It could be found here in this book from Daniel Russell, who works at Google. Although we actually have been working on guidelines to support search as learning with ChatGPT, because it's not very easy for people to understand how to get the best information actually for learning using tools like ChatGPT. So Marcelo Tibau which is the student who was doing this kind of work, after understanding how the learner really learns using a search engine, he tried to map this for procedures or prompts that we can use in ChatGPT in order to get better results. I wish he had finished his work before this talk, but it's still ongoing work. He just finished yesterday the first version of the article, so pretty soon we have something in this area also. We also explored content from social communities, and we were wondering what kind of content, what kind of community it would be good in order to search, in order to support learning through search. And one thing that we saw, it would be from question and answers communities. So we start to explore question and answer communities and searches in query and answers communities. Here, maybe some people can be interested. Thiago Procassi was also a PhD student, and he worked with question and answer community, tried to understand what kind of users should I trust. Perhaps some communities does not have some reputation grade for the users. So how could I know if I can trust this user or not? And specifically, a user in order to support your learning process. And he brought some future learning algorithms and also some experiments and presented in ICALT 2019. It's very interesting because when we think about trust, although his focus was on trying to identify people who I can trust to help me, we could use the same approach to trying to understand which content I should trust. And if we think about social networks today, or the web content today, which content should I trust? And that is very important right now. Here is another work from working on Twitter, which tries to understand polarization of some topic and try to understand if the search engine from a social network gets more polarized in this subject. Does it bring some kind of bias? That was the work here, and it was presented in the conference on web science. Here, it's also working with social networks, and it tries to not focus only on Twitter, but on any social network, and trying to understand the bias in the search of these networks, if they are trying to really provide you with a biased version of the content or a view of the content or not. Or maybe there are some things that can bring that, for instance, location, for instance, what kind of people you follow, and we try to understand better what is happening in the search engines in this kind of scenarios. We also have been working on trying to identify truth, lies, and sarcasm, and also with experimental scenarios, but I'm not going further in detail on that. What I can say that is that we were looking for not only the content, finding the specific content, but how can I rely on a specific content in order to provide something that while the student is searching, he also can rely on that content to learn. If we're looking at the scenarios nowadays. When we make a search, you don't know what you found, what you find. Perhaps it's a good content, perhaps it's some kind of fake. So how can students understand that? We are trying to develop some tools that can support search as learning in this scenario, broader scenario than a specific learning scenario. But it's also important to bring to the student the critical thinking, so the student would be enabled to see what is behind that message, who is bringing that message. So some kind of media literacy, information literacy, artificial intelligence literacy, these things also. Okay, I told you at the beginning of the presentation that my perspective here was not going into further detail of all this technical work that we have been done, but what am I looking for at searching as a learning area? A personal view on that. Perhaps I'm lost, right? Like this guy there, alone, looking for something. Perhaps I'm a dreamer. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not the only one. So searching as a learning, how to search, how to find the right piece of information, how can the search support learning? These were some first questions we had, but we moved from search as learning to search as a learning process. Trying to understand the searching process and the learning process. And new questions we have here. How to learn while searching? What are the searching and the learning process? How to evolve search engines to support the learning process? The search engines have a specific kind of information retrieval process. So it usually focuses on finding the information you want. But do you think that finding the information you want is the information you should have to learn something? That's kind of questions we are trying to solve nowadays. Can I trust the search to guide me through the learning process? What kind of things should I be doing in order to provide the specific content that is really good for you to learn something? But it was still getting the right piece of information and learning it with it. So we still looking at the content, at the information. We have a lot of information and try to filter the information, the specific information. We try to learn with this information. So it's all about information. So I say I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Oh, what am I looking for? Well, thank you, Rita. I just brought this image here. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. It's the beginning from the roots of knowledge. So we have here the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. It shouldn't be about information. Some people think it's about knowledge. It's not about information, but how I can understand this information and from this information provide some kind of knowledge. Maybe what I'm looking for is not knowledge, but wisdom. A bit further, should be thinking more about what is information, what is knowledge, what is wisdom, and how we can work on that. Going through the roots of knowledge, we have this part, this specific part here, which also brought my attention to what future are we building? What society should we have as a dream? What kind of education can support this future society? So it's not working only trying to understand information, but trying to understand what kind of future we are trying to build. What kind of society do you want to build? And here, it's something newer to me also. I've been, since the pandemic, trying to understand a bit from philosophy, from anthropology, from sociology. I've been doing a new undergraduate on philosophy. So I'm trying to figure out something more. And instead of looking for a modernist approach or some interpretative approach or positive approach from the epistemological point of view, moving from a design science research perspective, from building the artifacts, now I'm looking for something more, just looking to the future and trying to understand what we should be doing. This is another different approach that we have, like future studies or future scenarios, or we could be also be talking about fiction design, which is another view from this science view, different from what we are usually used to. And if you look here, what did you see? What do you see? This last one picture here. We almost do not see it, but people transferring knowledge to other generations. That's the point here. What kind of educational technology can we support from this future society? First, we have to think what kind of education we want or we need. After that, we think about the technology. I try to bring that thinking here because my students usually think, what kind of technology can I build? How can I improve the technology? But it's very important to understand what kind of education is necessary. How can I support this education? So technology should be after understanding the education scenario. And here, the last one, from the tree of knowledge and tree of life, we go full circle to the tree of hope for humanity. That's the last one here. And they say it symbolizes the transfer of knowledge and wisdom to the subsequent generations who will carry with them the light to illuminate the world in the future. And I conclude here with this thought from Morin. Living is the art I want to teach you. It's more than teach only the technical side, but trying to understand how to make the difference, how to live, how can we have a better future there. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sheen. Thank you very much for this really quite interesting presentation, which opens up like outside of education to different directions, like you said, like sustainability, psychology, society. Like this is quite interesting. So I think we have time to take like couple more questions, either from the online audience or also from the offline audience. So maybe we can start by the offline audience. Yes, please.
Hi, Shyam. Thank you for such a systematic study in the topic of search as search for learning or search as a learning process. I think you and your group has done a very kind of holistic kind of set of study. One particular study you mentioned that you say, okay, it's a pity you didn't finish, is the guideline for using search as learning with ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of also acknowledge that I have basically from your talk, I have two kind of perspective. One is because I think it's good. You are kind of more focused on learning process, right? Learning process. But just from the terminology point of view, I would say search, yes, in my personal opinion, is just one step, in the whole learning process, yeah, right? Yeah. So if we want to use search to kind of achieve a mean, to formulate this whole learning process, to me, I would say maybe not equivalent, because you have a very good slide showing what is learning, and there are many dimensions. Right? And okay, so this is just, I would say, if I interpret these two terms, search and learning process, then I would say, or search maybe to many people just one step. Of course, it's a key step, to the learning, the whole learning process. So that's one kind of my feedback. Another one I want to kind of acknowledge is, I think if the result, I'm really interested to know, your students currently working on with this ChatGPT thing, or more generative AI thing, right? So I actually just published a paper, and in the paper I said, forget about search, because search, because of Google, yeah, and it has been kind of, for many years, right? So search will kind of embedded that kind of concept. When we talk about search, we say, oh, Google search. Then nowadays I try to work with ChatGPT every day because it's on my phone, right? So then I say, forget about search, use programming prompt, yeah, instead. Yeah. And programming prompt, because I try to program in the natural language level with generative AI. Then I already done many trials, and I think I can do it, which means, I can formulate the whole learning process from the programming prompt perspective. Yes. And because the ChatGPT got, OpenAI just got a new, very nice feature for teachers, which is sharing. So the teacher actually can prepare the whole context in advance, right? And embedded in the programming prompt, and then share with all students. Then the students would get the link and start from there. And the teacher's scaffolding actually already embedded in the previous prompt, the context. Yeah, so I'm really, really keen to know, the result from your student.
Okay, I just can say that right now that he had explored some knowledge on how to build prompts that can support the learning process through dealing with information in this kind of technology like just ChatGPT. And he explored that. Actually, he built a specific group of prompts based on previous work on interacting with the search engine. And now he just finished analyzing the results with some specialists from working with ChatGPT and learning with ChatGPT. But I still haven't seen the final analysis he had done in order to bring me. But probably some months from now, it will be published. So,
okay.
Looking forward.
All I can say is that. But I agree with you that The searching process, as we are used to nowadays, it's not anymore so strong, so dominant as it used to be. Now we have another kind of interaction with its conversational one.
Conversation.
But it also brings some challenges because it's going to be, it can be more biased. So how can we work on a more critical thinking on this kind of platforms? That's the things we are doing right now, trying to researching.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we still have time for one more question online. So let's see, does anyone like online have a question? Please raise your hand and mute your microphone.
I think I was too fast, so people got lost.
No,
the technical detail.
I think not. Let's see if we have any.
No, this is this. You should go to chat.
No, but if they raise their hands, it would be like automatic.
No, but maybe chat also already have something. You just
Chat. That then. No. But they can unmute their microphone. No, they can unmute their microphone and ask.
Yeah.
Okay. If do we have? Yeah. Please.
Two.
Sorry. So we have our lab also have some work on learning on the browser and web browser and informal learning, and a lot of times it starts with search.
Yeah.
And in this process, we're trying to identify what part of online browsing is considered as learning. So and we consider there's like search is learning. Researchers, there's definition like whenever you are acquiring new knowledge or new information. Do you think that's like a good enough definition when you are trying to define, okay, let's say there's a binary classifier trying to identify at this moment is this person learning or not on the computer? Is that a good definition?
Very good question, Jimmy, because it depends on what you understand by learning. Some people just think if I get the right piece of information and I know how to use it, I'm learning like that. Actually, from my point of view, we need to not only get the information, but really apply this information in different scenarios. So I know I learned something when I do that. So it's a bit more difficult to understand only from the learning searching perspective, because when it ends the searching, we do not have the feedback from the user anymore. So it has to be another word trying to interact with the user in order to understand if he can apply technologies in other scenarios or in other situations. So it's more difficult to understand actually how learning really happens after the searching perspective. What we got in this last paper that I told you from Marcelo Chipal from this year is that I can see the difference from the knowledge the user has from the beginning of the search and the end of the search. Because, for instance, he's using different technology. He can combine different terms that before he couldn't have, he couldn't know. So he is adding some things in his knowledge that you can see he's advancing in that specific domain. So these kind of things we are trying to understand also as knowledge gain, but is it really learning? In my opinion, not yet. But that's what we have right now.
Thank you so much, Shini. Thank you so much. One last quick question, please.
Thank you so much. I mean, your work, we follow your work for many years. It's really interesting. Obviously, learning happens more through dialogue and interaction than by consuming content. But still, because many policy makers, they still invest lots of money in building repositories of educational content all over the world. So what would be your advice to them from your research? If a Minister of Education was calling you, for example, say, what can I learn from your research that will make better my investment on educational object repositories? Do you have any advice from them?
Yes, actually, what happens, we have created knowledge there, and that's much better than the ones that I cannot rely on. So I still think that this kind of content is worth the challenge of investing, because we really know it's good enough to learn from this content. While on the web, we have some things good, but other things that can bring a different understanding that is not quite reasonable. And we should be able to bring the student to be more critical about that. And we nowadays are not able to do that. So in this scenario we have today, this kind of knowledge is still important. I think that would.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much. So I think it's a wrap up for today. Let's give one round of applause. So I think we can wrap up this session. Now we'll move on to the next session. So please feel free to join like the next parallel session. Thank you so much.